The Destination Calcio website and app brings you 3 live and free games of Serie B every single weekend. And with that, the season opener, Dan Cancian and Emmet Gates, they join me, David Ferrini, to discuss the upcoming Serie B season. Let's get right into it. The favourites, we're all wearing different kits as well. Dan, you're wearing Palermo.
I am indeed.
So tell us a little bit about what Palermo can do to get up to the promised land.
What Palermo can do to get up to the promised land, get a manager who's made a living out of winning promotions. Oh, they got one, actually.
Super Pippo, he's there and he's
the
already
man
got
himself.
A win. Yeah. You agree with that, Emmet?
Yeah, I mean, he's going for a hat-trick of Serie B promotions. You know, he took Pisa up last season, decided to drop back down into Serie B. So they've got the right man for the job.
Yeah, he knows his strengths.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not just that he knows his strengths and he's such a good manager at winning promotion, as Emmet pointed out. But Palermo needed a lift last season. I know that he reached the playoffs, but they just could not get out of their own way. Genesi was a dead man walking, so to speak, from the moment he took the job. They never warmed to him. They never...
I mean, we were there, Don, when they lost to Juve Stabia.
Yeah.
And they were dreadful. They were absolutely awful.
Did they just run out of petrol, I guess? And Juve Stabia were no slouches. I mean, they had...
Yeah, but
Adorante,
I suppose when you consider what Palermo had spent last year, what Juve Stabia had spent...
Yeah.
If you looked at the game and didn't know who had spent what, you'd think Juve Stabia had spent the more
We had
money.
one club that spent, one club that didn't.
Well, that's the thing. But if you look at like the wages to points metrics, I think Palermo were third worst in Serie B last season after Sampdoria and Salernitana.
Yeah.
2 clubs that faced off in the relegation playoffs. So
And 3 clubs you'd expect in the playoff promotion race.
Yes, you do. But also with Palermo, there is the fact that it's now 9 seasons since the last been in Serie A. You know, they're owned by a Serie football group. We know that they're not universally popular, the owners. In Palermo, we spoke to fans, we spoke to a lot of people on the scene, and it's not just the case of they own City, therefore we're going to turn into a juggernaut in Serie B. But the investment, as Emmet pointed out, is there, and it just hasn't delivered yet. Yeah. And Dionisi never looked like getting the best out of the team. I think what they said in March, they said we're still searching for our own identity. In March, you can't be doing that if you want to win promotion.
I guess that was after the transfer window in January, but we have to put it into context. Brescia's just gone out of existence. That's what happened to Palermo, and that's why they haven't been in Serie A for 9 years. Yeah. So Palermo fans out there, if you agree with us, let us know in the comments. But they were Serie D back in 2020, and what's his third year? And third year with Citigroup at the helm.
Yeah.
So now they've got the training facilities there. They're getting the infrastructure right. They've got some big players now. They've still got some of the core of last team's squad there. You're wearing the third kit from last season. That was worn on the pitch by Jacopo Segre, that little flick he put through the lovely assist for the winner on the weekend when they beat Reggiana at home. So I feel like they've got a good mix now with Pippo there. They've got the leadership. They've now got really good attackers. They've bolstered the defense as well. Okay, there's a changeover with the keepers. They need some time to gel, but they've got the win. 2-1 win.
I think they've got the best front 2 in the division.
Okay. Yeah.
Matteo Brunori and Pohjanpalo, they are superb. And they clicked immediately last season after Pohjanpalo arrived from Venezia in January. You normally think it might need, a couple of weeks, maybe a month to gel. They hit the ground running straight away. There is a great partnership, a great understanding between the two. And by the sounds of it, they are a really good match off the field as well. Pohjanpalo said in the interview with Gazzetta that he feels at home in Palermo. He's always felt welcoming. It's never felt like the big morning striker coming in to take someone else's job, which I guess helps.
Yeah.
And they're terrific, those two front.
And you do kind of think if Palermo had signed Pohjanpalo last summer, maybe it could have changed the course of their season. Obviously, coming in January, just had 9 goals in 14 games or something
And he got 9 in 9 to start off with.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
And one game, I think.
Yeah, I think probably the one big gap on his CV is the fact that he has not scored in the playoffs. Yeah, did he score with Palermo? Of course, there was only one game with Palermo last season. I don't think he scored with Venezia in his previous 2 seasons either. He banged them in during the regular seasons. I don't think he scored in the playoffs. I may be wrong. I'll have to double check this. Probably should have done it. But I know that was the one thing that's always been sort of held against him.
What, like he's not a big game player?
Well, no, I don't think so. I just think, at the end of the season, in the playoffs, he hasn't scored. I think it's natural because if you are so prolific during the season, by the time you get to the playoffs, whoever you're playing against, you're going to try and mark you out of the game.
Also, there's a different way to play in the playoffs because if you finish higher, you don't need to score.
Yeah, and there's so much more at stake. There's a pressure and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
we've got a series out there with 4 articles that we put on destinationculture.com. One of them is about the front runners, and it is Serie B analysis, Palermo and the big guns targeting the title. And in this Palermo side, there have been a couple of good additions. And again, I will say that they've kept the core of the squad, especially in that central midfield with Segre and Gomez. Ranocchia, one of the goals of the season.
Yeah.
It's in the top 11. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out on the app, the best 11 goals. But Palumbo coming in from Modena is a big signing.
Yeah.
For me, it's a game changer for them.
Yeah, he's a great little player. I remember we went to, was it Modena Samp? We went the last year, David, and he was really good.
He was really good, yeah.
Like a number 10, ghosted in between the lines, gorgeous left foot.
He ran the show as well when we went to see Pisa Modena last season, towards the end of the season.
That's right, yeah.
He's a bit of a throwback. I don't think you can sort of it's not a player that you can say he'll just slot in and will do A, B, C. Sort of you need to give him freedom. Yet the freedom in Modena, I'm interested to see whether he's going to get the same freedom under Inzaghi because Pippo is very structured. His football is very structured and is successful because it is structured. But, we know in this day and age, players that sort of stray outside the line are somewhat a rarity.
Yeah.
They can be too creative these days and not get minutes. But what a team they've got, especially that forward line. They brought in goal Barney's the new defender, Giazzi, who's got a lot of Serie A experience. In fact, so is Barney, so is Tommaso Algello, who will play on that left side. Christopher Lund has now left the club. He's on loan in the Bundesliga, so we'll see how the USMNT player goes. We interviewed him last year as well. Went down to Palermo, didn't we? Dan, you came with me on that trip.
Yeah,
and
just before Christmas.
Just before Christmas. A nice little part of the world. Very good culturally, and it is one of those stadiums you want to get to as well, Lorenzo Barbera. And
I do think
take it all in.
I do think Palermo, we do talk, sometimes we talk on the show about sleeping giants, but I do think Palermo are the sleeping giant. I think the
fifth biggest city.
Yeah, I mean, Serie A needs them back. The Barbera when it's full, fantastic stadium.
Yeah, I think there is also we're at the point where Serie A is so. I mean, of course, Napoli are the reigning Serie A champions, but Serie A is so tilted towards the north of Italy.
Yeah,
having Palermo in or anyone else for south for that matter will
and it reflects on the map of Scudetti as well. They're all in the north, and there's a flicker when you look at the bottom.
Yeah.
Now Napoli's got 4, but Rome and Lazio got a few in the Eternal City, but there's 5 between them. There's one in Sardinia, and that's it.
And of course, by the time Palermo come up, you'll be able to go on our way there in Palermo by car because they're building the bridge over the.
That's right.
Of the Stretto, aren't they?
Yeah, get to Catania as well. Be good.
Yeah. It's only been about 60 years in the making or something like that. So
whether it gets built is another thing because I remember my father talking about it 25 years ago. It's a new millennium. They're going to build a bridge.
Yeah.
So that's what we're hoping happens. Should we turn our attention to one of their competitors? Palermo will be up against it. There's Venezia. This is the third kit, well, the away kit.
That is a beauty.
It's beautiful. Look at this.
Yeah.
The long sleeve version. There's one with Chinar or Sinar, however you want to say that. They make spritzers. That's where the spritzers from. Veneto, Padova, that rivalry there. We've got a video coming out on that where we speak to a Venetian about how to make the best spritzers and what they prefer. But let's get to the football side of things. So Venezia now with another coach that knows how to get up to Serie A, Emmet, Giovanni Stroppa.
Yeah, exactly. Took Cremonese up last year by the playoffs. Again, like Pippo, he's dropped back down to see if he can get Venezia up. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do 2 years on the bounce. When you look at Venezia's squad, you think you look at it, you think that Venezia team is better than the Cremonese team that he took up. So I think it bodes well for Stroppa.
There's a lot more raw talent. I love Dumbia. He's such a talent. Italy under 21 international. Same with John Yeboah. So they've got that flair. They've also brought in one of the leading strikers from last season from US Stabia. He's the guy that got them to the playoffs. Of course, there was more to it with Guido Pagliuca, but still also Andrea Adorante is now the number 9 at Venezia. Saw him in the Coppa Italia a couple of weeks ago. We were there at the Penzo, and still, he was one of those guys that you want to bring in, 25 years of age, goal-scoring experience now, and Venezia are banking on him.
Yeah. And he was Adorante was very impressive, Don, wasn't he, when we went to see them?
I think we discussed it in May, didn't we? I think we put it at a legitimate shot of being the player of the season last time. And I don't think anyone expected him to be that good. But
He and Gemello.
yeah.
Yeah. But you know, with guys like Stroppa, with guys like Inzaghi, there is a particular reason why they would want to stay in Serie B. And I guess it comes with the experience of going up. We know that Pippo has been up with your Salernitanas and your Milans and that.
Benevento as well.
Gone back to make your, fare la gavetta you earn your stripes in the lower leagues. He left Milan. I think he went to Venezia, didn't he? In Serie C at the time.
Yeah.
Back when they were sort of coming back, rising from the ashes again. So many clubs have done that now. And also Stroppa has been up and down, and two very good players in their day, Italian internationals, Stroppa and Inzaghi, both going through Milan as well in the Berlusconi days. So now we see these guys with playing experience. They've won titles. They've now won titles as coaches, but in the Serie B and Serie C. And Stroppa, and we also what happened to him last season, it's happened to him before at Cremonese and also at Monza. He got Monza up and he got Cremonese up, but now he's, you know what? I'm going to stay in my lane. It's Serie B. My role is to develop these players that are coming through at the next level. Is that what they're doing?
I think there is definitely an element of that. With Stroppa, we were in Spezia, David, you and I, for the player finals, and in his press conference, I thought it was very telling now. Before he allowed himself to celebrate, he said, "This promotion is the one that's annoyed me the most, because they sacked me, and by the time they hired me again, you know, I left a team that was in the top 3, and by the time I came back, we were 7th or 8th. And had I not been sacked, we would have gone up directly."
Yeah, it could have been automatically promoted.
It could have been automatic.
Save
and
themselves
that
the
to me
drama.
felt a sort of, not so much a red flag, but it was definitely him setting his stall out. You know, like it felt like he was saying, if we're gonna do this in Serie A, if I'm gonna stay on, I'll have to do things my way. And presumably he wasn't allowed to do things his way. And Venezia, with all due respect to Cremonese, Venezia are not so much a sleeping giant as much as Palermo, but they're such a project for what.
There's probably bigger ambition in Venice than there is in Cremona.
There is something about them, isn't there? Like, if you can be the man who brings them back in Serie A and keeps them there.
Yeah.
Well, they're so well followed around the world. Everyone sort of has a soft spot for Venezia, unless you're a part of a supporter or maybe Cittadella or Udine or someone close by. But everyone likes, you think of Venice as a place.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an amazing city.
Yeah, so I mean, it's unique. I think when you manage, I think Venezia probably one of the few clubs in the world where you manage them, and you don't just manage the club. You sort of like are an ambassador, for want of a better word, for the city.
The ceiling is definitely higher
Yeah.
in Venice than it is in Cremona. You know, David, we went to Cremona a few years ago. I think there's nothing to take you to Cremona, all due respect, unless you're going to see Cremonese.
Yeah. Or you love violins, one or the other. So,
Oh yeah, true. They're famous for that, aren't they?
yeah, that's where it's from. Yeah, or Chiara Ferragni, I think she's from there. So yeah, so if you don't know who she is, we're not going to talk about her anymore. But yeah, so Cremona, it doesn't have that vibe that Venice does, or your Lake Comos, or your Romes, or your Florences.
On a more serious note, there's also the fact that like some managers are better at taking teams up than they are at keeping them up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, there is a large element in that.
Yeah.
You know this, Dan. In every league across the world, there are managers that get teams up, and then they can't actually cut it at the top level, so they drop back down.
Yeah.
And their job is to get teams up, and then they basically hand the keys to someone else.
Yeah.
So I think Stroppa and Inzaghi are maybe examples of that, especially Pippo, because his Serie A record is not great compared to his brother.
Yeah. I thought it was telling last year. I think in January he spoke to Sky Italia and he said that he felt like he was a much better manager, that being at Pisa helped him develop, both in the way he manages and the way he sees football. And he said, I don't think that being successful in Serie A means being Serie A. And he said the same thing last week, because obviously he's been asked a lot about whether he feels like sort of like took a step down by staying in Serie B after taking Pisa back to Serie A. And he said that, for him, the division doesn't matter. What matters to him is football, like getting his idea of football across his players. I thought that's very interesting because, you can say, a lot of players, a lot of managers might be saying, well, I got a better offer. Everything is is hunky-dory down here. I decided to do that. But he's honest enough to say, well, look, I would love to manage in Serie A, but the division per se doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, and I think it was smart from his perspective, because let's be honest, if he gets Palermo up, again, as we said about ceilings, the ceiling's going to be a lot higher with Palermo than it will be with Pisa.
Yeah.
His budget's going to be bigger if he gets him to Serie A. You would like to think they would give him a crack in Serie A once he gets him there. Maybe, work towards the middle of the table and whatever. So I can see why Pippo did it.
And also to add to that, I suppose you could argue, what's the hardest job? Keeping Pisa in Serie A, which, let's face it, is a free hit. Realistically.
It's a free hit, but also you could be sacked by October, November.
That's what I mean, because I think there's going to be more pressure on his shoulders to take Palermo up than it would have been to keep Pisa up. Even though he did an amazing job at Pisa, we all saw it last season.
I think it does have a ceiling on it, though. Palermo really doesn't.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
It's a massive city.
I'm not suggesting for a
City
minute that
groups behind
Pisa.
it.
I'm sure the Pisa would put up a great fight to stay up, but what I'm saying is, I think you have almost more pressure when you're trying to take a team up, particularly a sleeping giant such as Palermo, than you will do if you're just trying to avoid relegation.
Nobody really expected Pisa to go up last year. We kind of overachieved. Yeah. So now, if he had stayed with them, it's like, well, if he gets him relegated,
Pisa finished 5 points above relegation zone the previous season with a negative goal difference. No one thought they'll do what they did.
Yeah.
He's been through more clubs in the past 5 or 6 years than Emmet has on a standard Friday night.
Let me tell you, that is a lot of
That's a lot of
Benevento, Brescia, Regina, Salernitana, Pisa, and Palermo, and that's since 2021. So that's the amount of clubs he's been through in that time. He started his managerial career, of course, 2014 in the banter years in Milan.
He had a season in Milan, was it? Or was it 2? Yeah.
I think it was just the one. And then he had a couple at Venezia. So he's gone from Serie A to Serie C. They got them up. So he is one of those coaches. He's like a Gattuso for Italy. He's there for the inspiration. He's not necessarily there. I think obviously he's come along as a coach in that decade. But
I think he's a much better manager than Gattuso personally. It might just be me, but
and who knows? We could see people in charge of the Azzurri at some point in the Nazionale. So we'll see. But it's going to be fascinating.
Better off sticking him up front. That's right.
Simone as well.
Italy needs a striker. They need a big coach, and so do these clubs in Serie B. It'll be really interesting to see what happens between Stroppa and Inzaghi this season. There's going to be some back and forth between the bigwigs in Serie B. Another club is Monza, who have just come down with Venezia. And I feel like they've got the strongest squad at this stage before the window closes for the transfers, because you've got Italian international there in Andrea Colpani in the last 18 months. Then you've got Matteo Pessina, who scored a couple of goals at the Euros to get Italy across the line there, was one of their pivotal players in 2021 when they won the Euros. And you've got just other experienced players. Keita Baldé is still there.
Yeah.
You've got Danny Motta, he's been great for them over the years. Birindelli's still there. They've got they've got a pull at Monza. And again, it's a project that sort of came from nowhere. They'd never been in Serie B until
2021.
Now that they've been up to Serie A. They also, when Berlusconi was still around before he passed, he was talking about trying to get them into Europe, becoming a bit of a powerhouse. And they've got the new ownership now, which we've also spoken about with the podcast about Silvio Berlusconi and the dynasty. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it on our YouTube channel. And it feels like they still have a project there. And with new ownership, there must be new ambition. And the side still reflects that to me. Their starting 11, especially, we've got that. And we've got all the 11s in these pieces. And this is in the same one as the Palermo and Venezia piece. And when you look at this 11 and you look at also some new signings, Obiang and Galazzi. They've got Galazzi from Brescia. Obiang's come over from Sassuolo. Still got Armando Izzo. Birindelli's there, new keeper in Demba Thiam. And there is ambition there. And I really think they're probably one of the sides to beat.
I think Thiam's an excellent signing.
Yeah.
Very
good last season.
Very smart piece of business. I see where you're coming from with Monza, but I feel like and I may be wrong on this, but it feels like a project that has gone stale a bit. Like they got to Serie A and last season they literally went down without.
They were under the radar last season because they did nothing. Except just cop goals.
They went down without a fight.
Yeah. I think when Silvio, obviously Berlusconi, the family, media said buying Monza was because Silvio wanted to get back into football. But once he died, I kind of said to myself, because the rest of the Berlusconi family, they wanted to get out of football for a long time.
They want nothing to do
So
with it.
once Silvio died, I'm like, yeah, Monza will, as you say, go steal, because there's no one that actually wants the club on the books. There's no investment. There's no whatever. But I said to you, we were somewhere in Italy last year and we watched Monza. They were getting tanked in the early kickoff on a Sunday. But I said to you, if they keep many of the same players next year, they're good enough to go back up. And they have kept most of them.
They've made money as well because they sold Daniel Maldini to Atalanta.
Yeah.
But
again, as we said, football's not played on paper. On paper, they look good enough.
But also, I think there is more to that than just going back up, because then you can become a yo-yo club. Sure, you're good enough to go back up.
Yeah.
But what else is there? Is there a project to consolidate when you're back? Like, for example, I think the likes of Sassuolo have much more of a brighter future than Monza, because you can see them having. I think that the Monza's issues has been short-term thinking over the last maybe 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I was genuinely excited when they came to Serie A, because I thought obviously Berlusconi was never going to repeat what he did at AC Milan, but there was a sense of something is happening here.
Yeah.
And I think also partly with that is Monza just exists to sort of just consolidate. Berlusconi's never been one for consolidation. He's always been one shooting for the stars. So I think that maybe there was an element, sort of like a clash of culture there.
We also have to remember it's not just Berlusconi. Adriano Galliani's still there.
He's back at Milan.
He's back at Milan as a consultant.
Has he actually left though? Because all the talk is about him going.
Yeah.
But he is still known as the Monza CEO now. Whether he's leaving or not, I'm not sure. Maybe we need a statement from the club, but. Still, if that shows if he still stays at Monza, or maybe he'll consult between the two. Who knows? There's not much of a distance. If you've never been to Monza, it's about a 20-minute drive north of Milan. But if he stays, surely that is ambition for the club that they want to go back up. And I guess if he leaves, it doesn't mean they don't have the ambition. It just means that maybe there's a new
but
mindset
again,
there.
football has changed a lot since Galliani was pulling the strings.
He got them to Serie A.
He did. He sure did. Yeah. Maybe the real plot twist is he goes to Milan, he gets Paulo Fonseca's number, he goes back to Monza, and then he gets Paulo Fonseca.
I think there's better chance of taking Nesta to Milan and making him coach there, the ex-Monza coach. So,
well, if Milan's performance against Cremonese is anything to go by, Milan will play Monza in Serie B next year.
Yeah.
Hey, look, if we have Milan in Serie B, you can watch them live on the BC
every single week.
Stranger
things have happened, to be honest with you.
Oh, it'd be a good away trip to Carrarese, I think, for Milan. Milan supporters there get about 30, 40 of them in there in the stands. Let's change to Spezia, who lost the playoff final to Cremonese, and we should actually mention Paolo Bianco is in charge of Monza, but now to Spezia, who have still got Luca D'Angelo as coach, one of the only remaining coaches, and I feel like they're a little bit weaker than they were. Obviously, you lose Pio Esposito.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they can replace his goals, because he got, 19 last year?
Well, Vlahovic is there now.
Yeah.
Vanja.
You meant Vanja Vlahovic.
No relation to Dusan.
Still Serbian, and he's more of he sits just behind the striker, maybe on the left side of the attack, and he's come over from Atalanta.
Atalanta's under 23s.
He was on the bench for the senior side under Gasparini, and then he did most of his damage in the under 23s.
Spezia have got history going for them though, because in the past 10 years, I think it's been on 9 occasions one of the teams that made to the playoffs and didn't come up.
We'll go up the next year.
Went up the following season. And Spezia did themselves. I think they lost the losing finalists, and then they went up the following year. I realised Spezia last season. I thought they were brilliant. But we said this when we went to watch them against Samp, and then when we went to see them in the playoffs. There was a feeling they were running out of steam. And I do wonder whether they're now really tired psychologically as well as physically. Because when you play 10 months and then you don't go up, and they were favourite to go up because they drew away against Cremonese.
They just needed a draw at home.
Just needed a draw at home, exactly, and they lost. They came apart. The wheels just completely.
They were 3-0 down. They did come back in the last 10 minutes, but only because they had the magic of Pio Esposito up front to get that goal back. They scored within 60 seconds after that, and the hype was back. But It felt like it was just the crushing. It was hope that crushed you because, it always is the hope that kills.
Yeah.
When you're 3-0 down, you get back to 3-2, and then, it's not Liverpool, Milan in the Champions League here. It happened where Cremonese were able to hang on and they went into overdrive when it came to stoppages in the game and hacking players down, and they got the job done. And that is the difference between Cremonese and Spezia, is that Cremonese under Stroppa, they had that sort of leadership to hammer home the result. Take legs, do what you need to get up to Serie A. Just to think, like, the 5 minutes of football is the difference between, and we've seen it before with Bardi and Cardi.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that is difficult to come back from because, it's...
The psychological effect that have...
Devastating.
You can only go to the well so many times.
Yeah.
Well, they've got Artistico up forward. Zokowski's still there, who's been floating between Serie A and Serie B. He's very creative. They have Salvatore Esposito in midfield, who's their free kick taker.
Yeah.
So he's still there is still quite a good team there.
Yeah.
They boosted with Cistana from Brescia, and they also have the young Milan midfielder on loan, Christian Komoto. He was part of the Milan World Friendlies tour, went down to Perth in Australia and then through Asia. So they will, and this is the beautiful thing about Serie B, we will be able to see a lot of these youngsters that you would never usually see come on for Milan or Inter, whatever we saw with Pio Esposito last year. They're going to get minutes. So stick with us this season. You're going to see a lot of youngsters.
Spezia would be an appealing, if you are a youngster, like Spezia is a club that appeals to you because, as you said, you've seen what Pio Esposito's done, you've seen what his brother has done. So you're thinking, okay, I can go there, I fancy my chances.
Yeah.
There is a structure there to bring the best out of young players. And D'Angelo, I think, did a brilliant job last season. He was my manager of the season because of the way there is turning to the markets and spending big. Spezia spend relatively big for Serie B standards. But the reliance of on loan markets and getting young players in and get them to gel and to buy into his football philosophy is very difficult to do, particularly in a league where literally a draw can be the difference between going up, missing out on the playoffs.
Yeah,
I suppose it's a beautiful city as well. We went there 2-3 times last season,
and it's a cracking place to play football. The Pico is a beautiful stadium. It's small, but it's compact. It's modern facilities.
Flying to Pisa to get there. Carrara's down the road, and then you're on the other side of the Cinque Terre. You've got Genoa and Virtus Entella as well, which we'll get to.
Some tremendous Japanese food in Spezia.
Nippon Street.
Nippon Street's lovely. Shout out to them. And let's go to Empoli, who were relegated from Serie A. They have started the season quite well with a win. Popov, no one knew who he was. He scored a brace on the weekend, a couple of goals to sort of make sure that they got all 3 points at home over Padova. They've got Fulignati, who's quite a good keeper. He got Cremonese to Serie A. They brought in Curto, Bilardinelli, Iñakiti. We've also got Carboni, Ilie, the Romanian playmakers there.
Yeah.
And they've brought back Steven Spendi, the twin brother of Christian that plays for Cesena. So
and they spent big in him as well. It was like 2 million to bring him back. And for Serie B, that's big coin.
Yeah, I mean, for Serie B, you're talking about, world record fee kind of thing.
I'll tell you what, they had to get rid of some players. Obviously, Marianucci went to Napoli. So they've made money. And this is the thing about Empoli. They're kind of like an Udinese, aren't they? Where they always want to make money. And this is where they do quite well. So Marianucci, nearly £8 million to Napoli. Fazzini, who's gone to Fiorentina. We've got, they sold Goklikidze, the Georgian defender, to Udinese. And one for me, which I was quite raised eyebrows, Liberato Cacace, the Italian-New Zealand defender, has gone to Wrexham.
Yes.
He's part of that project now.
Sign of the times.
Yeah.
Going to Wrexham for 2 million.
They're in the Serie B of England now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Wrexham still.
Yeah. I just hope that if anyone is listening out there from Netflix or Disney Plus or Amazon, other streaming services are available, please do not come up with Welcome to Empoli because no one is going to watch it.
Welcome to the Castellani.
Please no.
Well, maybe don't focus on the stadium, but then again, the race course in Wrexham is a disaster. So, look, we've named the 5 front runners that we think are the front runners there. Let's go.
Sorry, just to say, on Empoli, joking aside, I think Empoli are the sort of team that just know how to win promotion. It's just, if you look down the years,
they've got that tradition. And they got Guido Pagliuca, who got Juve Stabia.
Exactly. They know how to win promotion. And, they may struggle once they're in Serie A, but if you have to put money on a team to finish top 4 in Serie B, they'll be on your list every single day.
Empoli have now become my definition of a yo-yo club.
They are.
They always just seem to be bouncing around between Serie A and Serie B.
Yeah. Empoli remind me of, I think it was either Vicenza or Perugia in the mid to late 90s. They will come up,
Yeah, then down.
go straight down, and then dominate Serie B.
I love Ciccio Tavano and Macaroni, that partnership they had.
Yeah,
In the
but
mid-
Tavano
Yeah,
should have been in that
yeah.
2006 squad, but he should have won the World Cup, Tavano. And he retired like 3 years ago. And Carrarese as well. So we're going to get into Sampdoria because they're not a front runner. Dan and Emmet, I think you'll agree.
No, absolutely not.
They've already lost one. Well, their only game they opened at the Stadio Luigi Ferraris. They lost 2-0 at home to Modena. I don't think it sets the tone.